number 17, Tennessee at number 11, Alabama. No secret, the last time that these two played, the Volunteers fans took goalpost home from Neyland. It's a really interesting day and a very cool day. As a matter of fact, not to put anybody on Front Street here, but I'm kind of gonna. My beloved producer, Catherine Kordaji, is a Tennessee alumna, and her face after learning the score of this game is on my phone. I love that moment so much for her. I love that moment so much for Tennessee fans. My big cousin, Rico, huge Volunteers fan. That was an emotional moment for them. They were able to get that Alabama monkey off their chest and do what they had never done, which is beat Nick Saban at Alabama. Now the challenge is, can you do it twice, and can you do it in Tuscaloosa, which is a whole different argument, right? Now, it ain't the same Alabama it was last year. There's no Bryce Young there, right? There's no guy that's going to go for 4 bills against you, okay? But Hendon Hooker ain't at Tennessee anymore either, right? Neither is Jalen Hyatt, who's going for 200. It's a totally different Tennessee. It's a totally different Alabama, but the more things change, the more things stay the same. The thing that I'm looking at here is it going to be a Joe and a Squirrel, or is it going to be Joe Milton and Squirrel White? Okay? That's what I want to know. Is it going to be Jalen Wright's day or Jalen Milroe's day? That's what I want to know, because now that Alabama has solidified that Jalen Milroe is their guy and he's been allowed to grow into that job, and Tommy Rees has gotten better about dialing up plays that work for him, he looks all but lethal in the last couple of outings he's had, because he's lethal running the football and he's got a cannon for an arm and he's accurate down the field. Intermediate passes are still the bugaboo for him. But against the Tennessee team that likes to go at warp speed, you get a couple of easy stops. You might go up 14-0 pretty quick. Ask Florida how it looks when Tennessee's offense is stalling. You can get them, and Tennessee only loss this year is to Florida on the road. I'll add to this that Alabama's defense, while not one of the best scoring defenses in the country, is still really damn good and terrifying. We're talking about Dallas Turner having 7 sacks in 6 games, leads the SEC in sacks. Kool-Aid McKinstry has become their shutdown corner. Caleb Downs has been outstanding. Dre Blythe's a younger nephew and Josh Downs' little brother at safety. Playing as a true freshman out there. You could see how Nick Saban and Kevin Steele have been able to put together the kind of defense that they're proud of and trying to make the offense in something that just gets out of its way. I like Nick Saban defenses, but I love Nick Saban when his defense is leading the charge, and I'm sure he does too, because this is a man who prides himself on sitting on your chest. He wants to stop you doing anything you want offensively, and he wants to run the ball. And if you can get Jermaine Burton open down the sideline, you're going to take that all day. If you can get Nyblack open in the middle of the field, you're going to take that all day. Bama ain't lost back-to-back games against the same opponent in recent years since Ole Miss 2014, 2015. Tennessee has not doubled up Alabama since 2003, 2004. And that time they went and got the win in Tuscaloosa before they got the win in Knoxville. I'm going to pick Alabama here, which is no surprise, right? They have been tough all year. They were tough against Texas, even in that game that they lost by 10 points. And I think they were still trying to figure out who the hell their starting quarterback was supposed to be, when it's been Jalen Milroe all along. You just need to see the other guys come out there. You needed the South Florida game. You needed to grow up. And even against Arkansas, when it felt like they were trying to throw that game to KJ Jefferson, who gave me the best soundbite that I've ever heard from Nick Saban, which is he saw KJ Jefferson throw Terrion Arnold off like a fly on a cow's ass. One of the most impressive football plays he's ever seen. And that man was a full load, right? I still think that they're talented enough to overcome their mistakes. They were undisciplined in that game. They couldn't make tackles, and Arkansas fought their way back into that. And yet and still, Alabama comes out on top against Arkansas. Alabama's also quietly one of just 2 teams in the SEC that have not taken a conference loss. So now it's about, can Alabama win the SEC West, perhaps get to Georgia, who looks vulnerable, and take advantage of that. And we could just as easily end up with Alabama in the college football playoff all along. All right, let's go from Alabama, Tennessee, to number 16, Duke, at number 4, Florida State. I'm going to start with Duke here. Start with the colonizers. The ranked teams left on their schedule include number 21, Louisville, who I barely ranked after what should be an embarrassing loss to a bad Pittsburgh team. But you know what? They're ranked. They got them next week. They also got North Carolina, which is going to be a very cool game if Duke can come out of this thing. And That game is on November 11th at Carolina. And I've said it once and I'll continue to say it until we play this game. Ain't nobody that likes beating up on Duke more than Carolina. Football, basketball, pickleball, you choose the ball, we will show up to beat up on Duke. That's who Carolina is. So I really want this to go out the way that it is. But this top 25 matchup kind of feels like a Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament. And still probably would go that way, right? I'm going to get there. You'd love to have Riley Leonard back for Duke in this because, one, we all would love to see Duke at full strength, right? Because what he was able to do against Clemson and since being healthy has been outstanding. Went out in the Notre Dame game, but he was not in uniform against North Carolina State last week, but he didn't have a boot on his ankle either, and he was walking around just fine. So maybe Mike Elko knows something that we don't. But here's something that we do know. Henry Bellin ain't it. He ain't it. That dude went 4 of 12 with 2 TDs and a pick against North Carolina State. That ain't gonna do enough against Florida State. Not Doak Campbell. That's not gonna do enough. No. You might need to change up what you're doing over there, Mike Elko. The Blue Devils look like a meal for this FSU defense. Blue Devils looking like an FSU snack. Blue Devils looking like deviled eggs if this doesn't go their way with a Riley Leonard or a strong performance from a quarterback. Maybe it's Henry Bellin. I don't think that's it. I think you need Riley Leonard for this game. But the Duke D is long and strong, and they have been holding people to 10 points or fewer this season. They are one of the 4 best scoring defenses in football. The others are all Big Ten East teams in the top 25 and top 10. They've been outstanding. Like we're talking about a Duke team that is on par with what Iowa has been the last few years. You've heard me say that Iowa's defense with Phil Parker leading has been one of the best scoring defenses the last couple of years, and they're showing that again. The counter there is just that. If Iowa played in the ACC, it would be Duke because that defense has just been that great. Linebacker Trey Freeman has been a godsend for them. That dude was lights out against North Carolina State. 15 tackles, 3 for loss, just out there running down everybody. And that's the identity of this Duke team. That makes perfect sense when you know Mike Elko, who is an outstanding coordinator, an outstanding play caller, but he's got those dudes believing it. And they're not coming out of nowhere. They won 9 games last year, right? They're good. And they've been built from the defense up and hoping that they can get a playmaker in Riley Leonard. But FSU is a team that's averaging 42 points per game. Okay? Against North Carolina nobility, a.k.a. Duke, they ought to be good. Now, I need you to make a believer out of me, FSU, because I ain't there yet. I still ain't there yet. I saw you against LSU. I saw the first half. I don't believe you. I saw you need to come back to beat Clemson in overtime. I don't believe you. This is the last opportunity that you have to make me a believer in beating a top opponent, a top 25 program, because there ain't none left on your schedule. You could walk into the ACC title game undefeated. You could actually win the ACC title undefeated. But if you can't beat up on Duke, how am I going to expect you to beat up on Michigan, Georgia? Right? I mean, we're taking a look at this, and I know you got Jordan Travis. I know you got Keon Coleman. I know you got Jaheim Bell. I know you got Jared Verse. But I ain't seen it. Osceola and the Panhandle Tribal Nation have beat the colonizers back with at least 31 points scored in every game they played and 40 or more in the last 3. But can you do it against Duke at home? And if there ain't no Riley Leonard there, you better hit your 42-point average. Because I don't demand you to be undefeated to be one of the best teams in the country. I demand you to be dominant and undefeated. I don't want to put the best 4th team there. I root for that team. That team's called Oklahoma. That team gets beat down. I want to see you show you deserve this ranking. And that's what we do in this sport. Okay? Don't let anybody tell you different. We talk about your eyes. We talk about how you look. We talk about the scoreboard. We talk about the margin of victory. We do not talk about wins and losses because we assume you are undefeated. Now be dominant and undefeated. Go out and dominate the colonizers. Go out, dominate the Krzyzewskis, and do it at home in Tallahassee. All right? Make a statement. I'm going to pick Florida State to win this game. Again, that ain't controversial. I need you to win it by a lot, or you're going to see and hear from me about it come Saturday night after Alabama, Tennessee, right here on the #1 college football show, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Thank you for watching the #1 college football show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.